Hello everybody, I'm Rusty. I want to welcome you to Island Breeze Tropicals. So today we're going to be talking about the proper way to water your bromeliads. So you know what? The sun is shining, the island breeze is blowing. It's time that you and I got growing. Come on, let's have some fun and let's talk about the right way to water your bromeliads. Today we're going to be learning about the proper way to water your bromeliads. But remember that not all bromeliads are the same and they have different structures, and those structures will determine how your plant takes in water. So we're going to take a look at 4 different kinds of bromeliads, and in general it will show you the best way to water. So why don't we look at a couple of examples, and I think it's going to clear things up really well. So the first bromeliad that we're going to be looking at has the structure that most of us are familiar with, and that is that it has a central tank. And that's why these are called tank type epiphytes. Now in the center of the plant is a rosette, and the rosette itself holds water, and that is the strategy that this plant right here, this Neoregelia, takes in water. So in the central tank of this Neoregelia are specialized cells called trichomes, and those trichomes enable the bromeliad to take in water that sits in that central tank. It's supposed to be there. So if you want to know the best way to water your bromeliad, all you do is you look inside the central tank, and if it has water, guess what? You don't have to water. And it's pretty easy to do it. All you do is just pour water right into the central tank. Now you also want to water the root system, and that's right in here. And the reason is that the root system of a bromeliad, even though it is epiphytic in this case, will differentiate, become more fibrous, and take in water, and your plant will grow better. Now, as a general rule of thumb, even if this is a little dry, that's okay. But you don't want this to be dry for a prolonged period. But it's really easy. Again, all you do is you look down in the cup, and if it has water in there, you're good. Now, it doesn't hurt to feel the substrate in here, and if you feel it and it feels a little dry, then keep this damp. You don't want your substrate to be overly wet. You certainly don't want it to be soaking, sopping wet. Now we have a video about the right kind of potting soil that you can use for your bromeliads if you're growing them in pots, and you might want to take a look at that. So you can see by looking down into the central tank that there's water down in there. By the way, this is a Neoregelia called Lucifer, and that's pretty much where you want the water to be. One thing that I didn't mention before is that you don't really have to worry about how much water is in there, as long as it's enough, but it can't be too much because they really are self-bailing, and that will also wet the substrate. So keep on pouring water in there. But remember, there is no one-size-fits-all rule for watering, and that's because not all bromeliads have the same kind of structure. So I'm going to show you one right here. This is a cryptanthus. They sometimes call them earth stars. You know how much I really love colloquial names, but nevertheless, you can call it an earth star if you want. Now we're going to be doing a close-up of this in just a minute, but I think you can see just from this picture that this plant does not have much of a tank. And so it doesn't have that capability to store water and take it in when it wants to. So with your cryptanthus, what you want to do is you really do want to have the soil evenly moist. Again, not soaking, sopping wet, but they are a little bit more terrestrial than the tank type that I just showed you. Now maybe you can see a little bit better. This is a smaller cryptanthus, and they're really pretty little bromeliads. They are not hard to take care of. And again, their watering needs really do center mainly around the substrate that they are planted in, so keep them evenly moist. This is a close-up of the cryptanthus, and as you can see, there really isn't much of a cup, so that is why we want to make sure that this gets its water needs met by keeping the substrate evenly moist as best you can. So this is a younger cryptanthus, and this shows pretty well, again, that it really doesn't have much of a central tank. It can hold a little bit of water in there, but you can see even though the rosette is more upright because it has not gone into flower yet, so you can see that there's not much capability for that plant to store water, so it can use it later, so it does need to have the substrate evenly damp. So there's another strategy that some bromeliads use to take up water, and we're going to take a look at tillandsias. That's what this is. We also did a video earlier on tillandsias, which will answer a couple of questions that you might have. But tillandsias take in liquid water by it falling on their leaves. And again, they have trichomes as well, but they're not down in a tank. And not all, but most of the tillandsias will not grow in a substrate. So you can grow this tillandsia right out on a piece of wood or hanging in midair. As long as it gets water, it'll be fine. But again, this doesn't have a central tank. And this is a close-up of the tillandsia, and you may be able to see a silver sheen on there, and the leaves themselves absorb water when it falls on them, and that silver color is caused by the trichomes. Those are the specialized cells that allow the plant to take in water. And I've got one more type to show you, and this is called a dyckia. And if you take a look, you can see it's a spiny little thing, isn't it? Look at that. Now, as you can see, the dyckia doesn't have a central tank either. Now, it likes to get its water needs met in the soil. Now, dyckias can handle it somewhat drier. They don't like soaking, sopping wet soil either. Evenly damp is okay for these. Now, you want your dyckia to be in really freely drained substrate, and as long as you do that and keep it dampish, I think your plant will grow just fine for you. So as you can see, there really is no one-size-fits-all rule, but you can pretty much generalize, and by looking at the structure of your bromeliad, you'll be able to know the proper way and time to water it. So anyway, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed learning about the proper way to water all of your bromeliads. So no matter where you are, I hope your sun is shining. I hope you have an island breeze blowing. I know that you need to keep growing, have some fun. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.